Rock and roll, baby.
Now I feel supported by the universe.
Mike, you've always been supported by the universe, you know.
Yeah,
It's your life force.
I'm trying to trust that more and more as the days go on, as I awaken more and more. But awakening is a responsibility, you know, because the more I awaken, the more I feel, the more perceptually aware I am of not only my emotions, but other people's.
Awareness, right? So hear that breath from my nose? That's the breath of life. It's a miraculous thing in its own.
We take it for granted, I should say. Breathing, just breathing.
It's an incredible thing. The human body, it's so amazing. Like, you know, there's not a computer company in the world with all the AI they got to figure out how to build one like this. It's just amazing. Just amazing.
So you think this was designed by a higher intelligence?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. You know, designed by higher intelligence, see it all day long, you know, and actually in perfect balance in most ways, I'd say. You know, the world was created in perfect balance, humanity with all the other creatures and all that. And, you know, it's a very natural thing. It's only when we get unnatural that we destroy the ecosystems or good life for people. You know, let's say, you know, atom bombs and things like that.
I was gonna ask you,
bad.
what are the most unnatural things right now that humanity should probably maybe cut down on?
I would say that number one is a natural thing is I'd go back to television screens. The black box in your living room, if you live by that thing, you will not know what reality is whatsoever. If you're really tuned into it and that's all you listen to. You know, get back to nature. Go take a walk in the park, you know. I think everybody gets that. There's a lot of scientific evidence. Just walking in nature, right, just makes us healthier and better. Go get some fresh air. You know, vitamin D only comes from the sun, the best vitamin D. I could take supplements all day long. I do take some good ones during the wintertime, but it's from the sun. The sun heals us, you know. Don't forget that. You know, back during the Spanish flu in 1918, whatever that was, they put everybody outside. You could see pictures of people laid out outside just getting sun. That didn't happen in our last pandemic, did it?
No, it didn't.
No, they were all closed in little rooms, all
Stay
by
inside.
themselves, dying alone. So, yeah. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, no, you did. Yeah. I had no ounce of fear in me during the COVID lockdown at all. I was kind of just trusting the process. I knew it was part of what was supposed to happen.
I think that takes a certain mind to do that. And Helen and I felt the same way, right? And to me, it was a big fear mongering process, right? All of that. I remember watching again television, right? And they're watching people make mass graves on the island outside New York City. They've been doing this for years. They call them paupers' graves, you know, when dead people die, you know, homeless die. But they film it, and then it's very tragic, you know. It's like, wow, look at all the bodies being buried in that field. Well, folks, it happens every day of the week, all the time. Yeah. Now they're filming it and saying, oh, COVID. And it really ran up, I think, the fear amongst people. That's why we have to trust ourselves a little bit more. Our innate, you know, our who are we? What kind of beings are we here, you know?
What's the most important question a human being could ask themselves?
Well, I would say this, like the first thing that came to my head just when you said it is like, who am I, right? Is the question like, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here, you know? And hopefully, I think life is a place to learn exactly those answers about why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing, you know? Mm-hmm. So I would say that, life itself will provide the answers, but you have to listen and you have to be aware to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. What are we listening to exactly when we do that?
Good question, Mike. Well, I think a lot of times our bodies, like our innate, it goes like this. Look at fish and like thousands of fish. They move in like what do they call them? A pool of fish, right? And a school of fish. Yeah. Thank you. Pool of fish, school of fish. They all move together as one being. Look at the birds that fly in the air. They all move together as like one flight of birds because they have communication between each other that's natural, that takes place. Look at ants move through and take over some other territory. Everybody knows exactly what to do because they're tuned in. They're tuned in to exactly what they were here for on Earth. They know exactly how to do it, and they live it every day. Humans, we're the ones, maybe we have higher conscious. Sometimes I argue whether we're smarter or not. I think some dolphins have it on us by 100 times in geniusness. But that's why we're here. That's how we learn, and we touch into that field. What is that field? It's called the quantum field. There's lots of scientific words for it. There's no empty space between us. There's only energy, and it moves. Scientists will tell us all day long it's like champagne bubbles are bubbling up, but they're subatomic particles. They could be coming from the other side of the world or the other side of the universe, and nobody really knows. But that's science. That's true.
Where is the source of this quantum field? Well,
this is a big question that mystics and religious people have wanted to know the answer to, I think, for millennia, But I believe myself that there's a universal power, a force in the universe that holds us together. As a matter of fact, the easiest thing to do is not fight it, is to accept the energy levels and raise them up. And I think we're all part of that quantum field. God particles, as they call it in quantum physics, and it exists. It's real. As a matter of fact, it changes everything. Sound, vibration, frequency. It amazes me. We're still in draconian medical ways where the science has outpaced these guys, outpaced these doctors and these research guys by decades and decades. But we're still using the same science in hospitals and stuff, and it's really old.
Right. Do you think these people in power who are greedy and don't want us to, awaken, do you think they're aware of this?
Oh, I absolutely. And it's shown in all their signs and symbols. Just look at their symbols and other things that they have, crosses, and, they know this has been going on a long time. And I think that those in control of the universe, and I don't mind saying that, well, just planet Earth, by the way, just for a brief period, by the way, that they're quite draconian in their ways, and they don't want people to be aware.
What does that mean? Meaning what?
Draconian means like totalitarian. You own the people. You don't let them know anything that's going on. That's the way it's been in the U.S. for a long time. Even though all these huge breakthroughs are coming out, scientific findings, huge things, sound can heal a body. You could put out a fire with a speaker at a certain frequency. The fire goes out immediately.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's a science. Google it, anybody. Go see it. But you don't see it. The fire departments aren't carrying these sound things yet, but it would be something else.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's really wild. So where do you think we're at currently right now as far as the quantum field, people realizing it, the people in power? What do you think the next step is? Because we were talking earlier and you mentioned 2012 was kind of like a spiritual awakening.
It was called a harmonic resonance change in the universe, and back in 2012, and there's a lot of science behind that. But look at the Mayan calendar; it ended at 2012. To me, that was like the last year of like the calendar of life as we knew it, and since then, we're open to spiritual enlightenment. Since then, we're open to consciousness. We're infinite beings. We do anything in the world. We're not restricted whatsoever. And that's what's coming upon us now. But what I would say is the powers that be, whoever they are, they're all meeting in Davos right now, Switzerland, while we speak, have to control this because they don't want a consciousness awakening. They want control, power. They want you to own nothing and be happy. It's one of the PowerPoint slides from the World Economic Forum while they all fly in their private jets, right? And I watched Bill Gates yesterday try to explain how he explains his carbon footprint, right? He goes, I use some plant-based material in my jets, and I have solar stuff on my 16 homes across the world. He agrees. He's got the biggest carbon footprint that exists in the world.
Really? He admitted to that?
He admitted to that on TV. You could see it. I forget who interviewed him. But it was like one of the Sunday shows just this last weekend. And it's like trying to, come on. Who are you talking to?
Right.
What are you doing? How hypocritical can you be? I tell you, one of the most evil people in the world is Klaus Schwab, and I'll say it here on video. He's the head of the World Economic Forum, one of the founders, and their whole goal is to kind of submit all nations under their will, and they want to do it using carbon taxes. Watch. They're going to say, like, the world's melting. Climate change is real. You'll see it all day long. You'll watch your politicians talk about it. I would just like to see the science. They used to call it global warming, right? That was changing the world, but they can't do that because the globe is cooling, now. So you can't call it global warming. It has to be global cooling. So, and there's a hurricane in Florida. They're like, wow, that's so nasty. That's so bad. We've had hurricanes way before we had cars, and some were way nastier than the ones we had before,
Yeah, you're right. Some people would say we're living in end times right now, from even a biblical perspective.
I think we're right, but it's an end time of an era. It's an end time of an era. And it goes back to the Mayan calendar as well. 2012 was the end of it. But now we're in a new era. I call it the era of consciousness. I think that everything in life is conscious and awake, plants, animals, people. And I think it's important to access consciousness whenever you can.
Did you hear that?
I heard that. What was that?
I have no idea.
Vibration talking about.
So some people would say that we're living in end times right now, especially from a biblical perspective. You read Revelations, but how that ends is that Satan, which I want to get your thoughts on that, is, sent to the abyss for 1,000 years, and Christ reigns on earth.
When I think of Christ, and, I've been a Christian for a lot of my life, right? I'm more a spiritual kind of person now, and I look at things differently. But I believe in the physical Jesus, that he was here on earth and he did stuff. No doubt about it. What I like to call it is Christ consciousness. The consciousness that Christ owned and had, that's what he wanted to give everybody. That's what he wanted to deliver to the world, Not, let's worship me under a cross or in the big buildings or anything. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, listen, I respect anybody that reaches out above themselves for something else, no matter what their religion is. And I've been in church services. They speak in Latin the whole time. The congregation has no clue what's going on, but still, they're all there because they believe in something greater than themselves. Now, of course, I think what's greater than themselves could very well be themselves. That's our innate. Jesus said, you'll do greater miracles than I did in Matthew 5 somewhere. You guys could correct me, but yeah, he said that. I'm choosing you to do greater miracles than I did. Water to wine and everything else. We have the power to do it. Let's access that consciousness and save humanity. Can't we make that work?
Right, and that's the thing. A lot of Christians that I talk to that love Jesus, and no disrespect to anybody and how they believe, there's a disconnect when it comes to Jesus telling us that we could do these things.
I've been fortunate. I've done a lot of sermons in Christian churches. 5. I've done 5 different sermons right down here in Mount Pocono United Methodist Church over the years. Wow. And what I find is that it really makes me excited when I do it. I talk about things like, talk about the God particle we talked about earlier, or Dr. Emoto's water crystals. I did a whole talk on that, how every thought's a prayer, because everyone is energy that goes out in the universe. How do you accept it? How do you feel about it? That's real energy. And so I put that out there, and I've done some really cool sermons, I would say. And the people come up to me and really enjoy it, because it comes from a place that's different than the regular Christianity. It comes from a place of, first I start with science, right? Because the science is amazing. The science should blow our minds, this is what it's really about. Just track science today. Sigmund Freud, they say he was an atheist, but not really. He wasn't an atheist. He believed in God. He said, this is so amazing. Who could even formulate all the things that he was just becoming aware of? And even his own, he couldn't even come to grips with one of his main theories, E equals MC squared. There's big flaws in it now in common physics, right? Because, a particle can be here and there and any place and anywhere, subatomic particles. We know this from science. And the biggest thing, we create our reality, right, by how we look at things. We learned this way back in the turn of the century. We had quantum physicists looking at subatomic particles through microscopes, and they would act differently based upon who's looking at them. That's what
Right.
created the reality
That's
of the
wild.
subatomic particle. This is old science. This should be taught in schools. This should be taught in,
The fact that you
elementary.
could change something by just simply observing it.
Just do it. I try to do it everywhere I go in life, right? Wherever I walk, whoever I see, the cashier on the place, I could tell they're all frustrated. They're all, hurting for some reason or another. All you do is you give them a glimpse, give them a look in their eyes of joy and potential. It's there. Come on. But, you can't give somebody an apple if all you have is oranges, That's a line from Wayne Dyer. And it's like, but if I'm full of love, I can give it to everybody. You can pass it along. But if you don't have it, you can't give it. But it starts in us. It doesn't come from outside of us.
I was going to ask you, how do you access it?
From inside.
Is that where the God particle is?
I believe it. I think that every living being, everything that's alive
connected.
on the earth is all connected.
By
It's
it.
a unified field, they call it. The science is there. It's a unified field, the quantum field. They have all kinds of terms for it. But there is no empty space between us here, Mike. It's all full of energy. And like I said, there could be, like I said, champagne bubbles coming up, like subatomic particles coming from the other side of the universe are coming up between us now. This is commonly known scientific fact.
I'm humbled by your words, Mark.
No worries. Don't you worry about it. I'm humbled to be here with you, Mike, and good job on all this stuff, I think the world needs to know what's going on in a big way, and I'm happy to help and support that. We should be free people, and really, the thing that gets me the most is my family, and thank goodness for them. If you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. My Mark VanSise. But the Dutch were here first before the English, in New York, New Amsterdam was called back at the time. My first relative, lived in New York in 1679. He came in, and the Dutch fortified the walls, and eventually the English took over, and we have English. We'd all be speaking Dutch if I had my way back then. But I had a point about that, which is we fought for freedom. I had relatives fought in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, every war. From beginning in the first wars we didn't talk about against the English in 1700s, 1679. And it's like it took us, so my dad fought in Korea, right? He took a couple bullet shots. He had to kill some 15-year-old Korean kid with his, knife on his M1 and stab him to death and deal with AD. They didn't even have the, what they call today, after traumatic stress system. My dad, he just had to have a drink once in a while, It's like, what do you do? There's no reason. We fought too much for this freedom, for this liberty. America's the best country in the world. It always has been. It was based on principles that I think are godly principles. What does it say? In our Constitution, these powers don't come from people. They come from God. And just saying that, whatever God is to anybody, I have no judgment on that. I have my own belief systems. I think it's a universal power. He's amazing and mighty. You could access him all the time, or her, whatever it is. But, we fought too long to get this freedom. We shouldn't give it up. The United States has been the best place to live in the history of the world. There's never been a place like it, and maybe it can get better.
Do you feel as if we're on the brink of losing our freedom here in America?
Well, yeah, I think we have a kind of a control state that they're trying to implement. And I think a lot of the things that came out in COVID, right, lockdowns, lockdowns, they want lockdowns now for climate change, right? Don't drive your car. There's actually a township, I think it's Oxfordshire in England, right? Go look. They're passing an ordinance. You can't leave your house more than 6 times a week because you create too large a carbon footprint.
Wow.
Yeah. Go look that up. I'm not kidding you guys.
That's wild.
Yeah. So freedom is what they're all against. Now, they can be free. They have 700 jets just flew into Davos, Switzerland this week, right? Klaus Schwab, all the ministers, leaders of the world, our own FBI director's over there. Why is our FBI director over there? I don't understand that at all. These are people trying to change global impact, trying to change the world. Mm-hmm. And
the globalists, they call them, right?
The globalists. And this is what they say. Look at their website. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's Klaus Schwab. I mean, the guy looks evil. He's like the guy from, all those evil movies, James Bond, or even The Spy Who Loved Me, those new movies. I don't like what you do. We own all the world. Anybody that don't like what I do, we will crush you and take you out. This is what they're doing, with energy, gas. Why are they shutting down 3,000 farms in the Netherlands during the largest food shortage in the history of mankind that we know of?
Are they doing that?
Yeah, they're doing that. They're doing it through the World Economic Forum. The Minister of Netherlands is a sworn patriot to Klaus Schwab. And Trudeau's doing the same thing in Canada now. PM Trudeau. His whole cabinets, they're all members of this cartel. I call it cartel because they're planning against our best interests. I'll tell you this all day long.
For those who don't know, what is the World Economic Forum?
It's a group created by Klaus Schwab, and he brings all these most powerful, richest billionaires together. Bill Gates is a member. I mean, all these guys come together to create global policy. And as I said, I wouldn't trust anything in the world that has the world name behind it. World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, we can get into that, and all these other global bank of settlements, the IMF, International Monetary Fund. These people do not have our best interests in heart.
Is this a force of evil? And could you consider this the devil or Satan? And then also an additional question, what does that word mean to you?
To me, I've seen evil. I've seen it straight up. I've seen demons. I've seen all kinds of things in my life. But that they're not that. They're just humans that are assuaded, I think, Oh, it is evil, and their plans are evil beyond belief. I mean, to starve humanity, to stop people from getting food, having electricity and fuel and things like that. That's evil. But Satan, I don't know. It's like my same belief in God. There's good and bad. It's like a yin and yang of things, right? I think Khalil Gibran wrote once, like, Jesus wouldn't have had a life unless Satan existed. What kind of career would he had? So there's two sides to every story that way. My point is, it doesn't matter which side you're on, here or there, but we have to raise our consciousness, raise our vibration, raise our lives.
How do we do that?
I think meditation helps a lot. I think get off the television. You have to listen to high vibration things. And vibration is easy. It's a clear science, of how you can do it, And how do you wake up every morning? Do you wake up, I have another day. I have another day to drudge through. Or do you wake up, wow, possibilities are limitless, right? Yeah. And I could be broke, I could be blank. It doesn't matter. You go for the gusto. That's the human condition. That's why we make movies and we have all kinds of things, because the human condition is unlimited and we could do all kinds of miraculous things. And we've seen that throughout history.
Why don't most people feel that way upon waking up?
Because they're controlled by a grid. There's an energy grid. The energy around them is negative and they're controlled. Like I said, you can't watch the black box in your living room. It will destroy you. Everything's negative, right? Oh my gosh, people are dying of COVID left and right. Everything's bad.
Unless you're watching this.
Right, unless you're watching this.
From a black box.
Watch this from the black box. But yes, that's the difference.
So these people are consumed.
They're in Edward Bernays, right? We talked about this earlier. His, he was first cousin of Sigmund Freud, and he dealt in propaganda back at the turn of the century. His number one job, he's in charge of sales for the Beethoven Piano Company back at around 1910. Anybody could buy his book. His book tells you exactly how this happens. And instead of going door to door to sell, pianos, it's like he learned how to change the whole piano awareness of the nation. At the time, all these Victorian homes were being built. He worked with the architects. He worked with designers. He worked with the newspapers to say, if you are anything in America, you have a music room in your house, or parlor, as it was called. And all these homes had parlors back then. And he sold a ton of pianos, way more than he would have done if he just went door to door selling them. You change the perception of the people, and they'll buy into big things all the time. And this has been happening to American people for at least 150 years, probably.
Do you think that's like an evil thing, or is that
I think I think the people at it are somewhat evil. It is an evil thing that they're doing it because they're destroying lives of so many. In that regard, I would call it evil, you know.
What about from a business perspective, somebody looking to make money?
Well, let me tell you, there's huge opportunities, you know, and I would tell this to all your viewers at this time, right? There's only so many times in the history of the world where everything goes to hell in a handbasket. You know, the Great Depression of the 30s. We had other ones, the 80s. We had the 2000 bubble bust. But what happens is every time there's a major bust and economies fail, the rich swoop in and buy up all the assets. They wait for this to happen. Well, they actually orchestrate the bubble. That could be other discussions with the Federal Reserve Bank and other things. But as they break and destroy the economies of the regular people, they come in and swoop up all the properties. Remember the farms in the 30s, Great Depression, the banks took them all over. Yeah. Then you do that, then the banks own them. They're public owned. This is happening today. We have the lowest home ownership rates in the United States since 1950s. What's up with that? Who owns all the homes? Go research that. 33% are owned by international investment trusts of U.S. homes.
Wow.
How can you compete against then when you're trying to buy a home, a young family?
Is there something divine, something good behind everything that happens, regardless of if we see it as a bad thing or not?
Absolutely. I think that there are no accidents in the universe, you know, and we should accept like what's comes to us, right? And I'll come out like, Mike, you asked me the other day, right? We're raising our grandkids now because the parents can do it, right? And you asked me if I'm angry about it, right? What I say? I said, I'm not angry. I'm not angry at all. It's an honor and privilege to raise these children, you know? They're beautiful and amazing and bring us great joy beyond belief. Is it hard work? Is it costly? Is it, you know, whatever? It is, you know? But what a blessing. And God gave it to us that way. Just that way. It's okay. We're cool with it.
Absolutely. I know. It's crazy how a lot of people see children as like a burden. It's a hard responsibility.
It is.
Especially if you don't feel rooted in yourself, you know. And
how can you raise your children?
If you don't trust.
I think this is I think children suffer again in this time and place. I mean, listen, there's always been issues with children. You know, the 1970s were way worse for child abductions and crimes against humanity, right? We don't hear about that now, but we hear everything that happens to them, so we get more afraid, you know. But I think my big point is that all they need is love, you know. Love the kids, you know. It comes really easy.
That's really all.
It's like that's all about love.
Love
that's
and
a
attention.
High. Talk about vibration and frequency. Love is up there. I would recommend to everybody to read Dr. David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force. Yeah. And it has a whole calibration of consciousness on there from like the lower numbers up to 1,000. You know, 1,000 would be like you're at God consciousness, right? But few have attained that in physical life.
So you're talking about a human being. There's a spectrum of frequency that you could vibrate at that goes from 0 to 1,000. And you're saying 1,000 is God consciousness, which is probably where Jesus Christ was resonating at.
Exactly. And Muhammad even came in at 700. You can calibrate it. This is science of kinesiology. They teach it in universities all over the country today.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating.
And you could just like our
I
muscles.
wonder where I'm at.
Let me see. You know, it's like a muscle energy thing. You know, it's like, do you have resistance or strength? When a thought comes to your mind, let me just try something with you right here online. Watch
okay.
This. Give me your left arm like this, right?
My left or my right? That's my right.
Right arm. Try to resist and push up as much as you can against my hand. Okay. Push it up, Mike. Now, Hitler, evil, bad. Do you lose power when that happens? Try that.
That's interesting. So, were you almost playing on my subconscious mind to feel my conscious?
No. It's like this. Our bodies know better. In the University of Maryland, and this took place in a college, right? In a big forum with probably 50 or 100 students, right? And the professor held up a head of lettuce that was grown with fertilizer, right? And did the same thing that we just did, a muscle test. How do you feel about that head of lettuce? And most arms went weak on it. But when she brought one out that was grown organically, all their arms went strong. So my whole point about this, like going back to your God particle, we know in our spirit how these things happen, and our bodies will tell us more than our minds sometimes if we could listen to them.
Bars. Do you know what that means, bars?
No.
That's just a new age term. When somebody speaks some words of wisdom, just
all right.
finish by
Well,
saying
I don't know
bars.
anything about it. I'm an old guy, so, bars.
How old are you now?
59.
59. Nice. You're doing good.
Thanks.
So what is your message right now to humanity?
Well, what I would say is look inside yourself. Don't look outside yourself. The answers aren't there. Everything that you look for out there won't be there. But we, as a humanity, as a people, it ain't our first time doing this, right? Trying to pull together and make it all work. So I would say that do everything you can to raise your vibration and frequency. Raise your consciousness. That means eliminate all the nasty thoughts that come in our head. Envy, jealousy, rage. Just stop it, right? And go high. Care, love, joy. Those things just emanating from that, coming from that space. And by the way, we're magnetic beings. So once you do that, it comes to you. You want love in your life? The only way to do it is not seek it. You have to be love. You want love? Be love. It'll come to you. It's like a magnetic frequency. This is science. I mean, we'll do other things in the future talking about these in more detail, but the science is beyond that. So I love the word from Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the universe. That's how we do it.
It's so accurate.
Very accurate.
But embodying love, when you have an upbringing that, makes you almost stubborn towards your own life in a way, and you have all these shitty experiences growing up.
I see this in you, Mike, and I was going to have these discussions with you offline, right? But I'll bring it online. You can edit and do whatever you want.
That's fine.
The only thing restricting you, right, is you. And you put so much blame on your father, right? And I get it. He wasn't there for you, right? And I was there for my kids, and I know that's terrible. It's a crime against humanity. It's a crime against you. But you cannot own it as yourself. That's not you. And you do that too much. You got to let it go. You got to let that one go and forgive him. The best thing you do is forgive him and be free from it, because you bring it up a lot. So I know it's on your mind. I know it's holding you back in some ways, and you don't need that, Mike.
How will I know when I ultimately forgive 100%?
I think you'll feel it in your soul. You just got to let it go. I mean, you just got to let him go. You got to feel him. My dad comes to me in my dreams, and we have stuff that way. But, maybe you'll find a way.
Yeah.
You need that. You need that, Mike. I'm telling you, Mike, you need that. Mm-hmm. You got to do that.
Yeah.
It's going to change your life.
I'm working on it, Mark.
You're a good boy.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just kidding. I didn't mean to say good boy, but yeah. We love you. We love you like a son around here. So
thank you. I see you as a father as well, Mark.
Well, thank you. I
appreciate it.
We're here to help you and love you. Help you any way we can.
That's why you're doing this podcast.
That's why I'm doing the podcast right now. God bless you in all your endeavors. It's a good one. There'll be no end to it. It's just the beginning. Just beginning for me too, and you're helping me as much or more than I'm even helping you.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
Don't you get it?
I think
I'm trying to teach you these things. Boy, will you wake up to this? Holy mackerel, look what I'm doing. This is what I need to do.
I think
anyway, that's what I need to do. Thank you, Mike Fornello.
Yeah, thank you for making me appear like a very good podcaster.
You're an awesome one. You're awesome one.
Thank you.
You're going to be better and better as it gets going. God bless us. Like, we just be ourselves, It's cool. I love it.
I'm waiting for your show.
I'm grateful.
I've been waiting.
I'm
grateful. Be a big supporter.
I'm grateful to have you in our lives.
Thank you.
Freaking crying now. Shit.
It's all right, man.
It's all right. Crying is not a bad thing.
It's not
just
at all.
Not at all.
I embrace that part of myself.
Yeah.
Some people would say it's not a masculine trait to cry.
To me, like I've never done that in my life as a human, like in front of a guy. I wouldn't do that. Never done that in my life. Like I would hold it back if I had to, because I'm a man. But no, it doesn't matter anymore. Just let it go. It's easier that way.
Yeah, that's
let everything flow.
It's beautiful, man.
It's beautiful, Mike. Good podcast.